Oh, oops.
Morning, it's Sunday morning, and I'm Haiti, and I'm so blessed and grateful to be here today.
Good morning, I'm Felice, and I'm blessed and grateful to be in recovery. This is our Sunday morning, Why Wait for Recovery, amazing recovery meeting. And we're glad that you guys are here, and we're glad all you guys are out there. And we're going to start off this morning talking about addiction and food addiction. We deal with food addiction, emotional eating, binging and purging, overeating.
We deal with it and we live it. I'm a food addict, I'm a compulsive overeater.
I'm a drug addict, alcoholic, anorexic.
And I'm a professional binger and purger.
All right then.
You're right.
All right. So we pretty much will have all of our bases covered, and we have some other people hanging out here with us that have all the bases covered as well. And you too, Jess, we have some people on Zoom. I think somebody else is going to be with us on Zoom. And so this morning, our topic was going to be when nobody understands us. Poor us.
Poor me.
You know, nobody understands us, and nobody understands, you know, that we're addicts. And actually, we don't really want to use that word because that's an ugly word, right? We only use the word addict for people like me, drug addicts and alcoholics, not for people like you, who are food addicts, right? Because I'm worse than you guys are, right?
Right, and I went through
basically that's the way it's looked at.
You know, I went through a really long time. So many people sabotage my diets. It was poor me. The reason I picked up was my husband, my kids, my sister. It was Friday.
I was going to say, I did all that and I did it on Tuesday just because. So you guys, we use because we're addicts, and we use because we have absolutely no idea as to how to deal with life or any of the emotions that we feel. And so what we do is we take something in, no matter what that is, if it's drugs, alcohol, cookies, soda, it doesn't matter what it is. We take something in to change the receptors in our brain so that we can feel differently than we feel. And some people can do that and wake up one day and not do it no more. And those people aren't addicts. Those people are actually just overeaters, or people who drink too much, or people who party too much. But we're different. Our brains are wired differently. Something about our receptors in our brain and our pleasure center, and they're really not sure why we're wired that way. They just know that we are wired that way. And so that's a thing. And so we're addicts. So everybody raise your hand and together say, yes, I'm an addict.
I'm an addict.
Yeah, you're an addict. So, okay, so you're an addict. So I'm 5'5". I want to be 5'8", but I'm not. I'm 5'5". And I am an addict. And those two things are facts.
So you can't choose to be 5'8"?
No. And you can't choose whether or not you're going to be an addict. And so, like I said, that's just a thing. And so we're going to talk about...
Wait, I want to ask you, so willpower really wouldn't fix my addiction?
So here's the thing, you guys. If willpower worked, they would take the two of us while we were in active addiction, lock you in that room, lock me in that room. They would feed us both healthy meals, right? And then they'd keep us there for 2 months. And in 2 months, I would come out and I wouldn't be a drug addict and alcoholic, and I could go out with you on Friday night and have a drink, one drink. And you could go out on Friday night and eat some cookies. It don't work like that for us. It's got nothing to do with willpower. It has to do with the way that our brain is wired.
You know, when you speak about that, I never got compelled at 1 o'clock in the morning to rush to the refrigerator or rush out to Publix to buy lettuce.
What is that?
It never spoke to me. Let me go binge on lettuce or tomatoes. I mean, I have overeaten. If there was nothing else available, I would take what was ever there. But I never got compelled to the point of going into my car to actually go pick up those foods.
Right. And so when we're talking about binging and purging, actually people have different stuff that they sometimes when you feel that need to binge, your brain's kind of okay with whatever you do have there at the moment. And when left to your own druthers, when you're able to do pretty much so whatever it is that you want to do, like it's the morning and you don't have to run out at 3 o'clock in the morning, now it's 7 o'clock in the morning and McDonald's is open, then you get that choice. And so then you're more apt, obviously, to overeat or emotionally overeat or binge and purge on food that your brain actually wants.
Right.
Right. Right. It's like your drug of choice. Like, I would drink a beer, but it really wasn't my thing because my thing was tequila. But still, when push came to shove, I would drink a beer. Right? because anything's better than nothing at all for an addict, and everybody's shaking their head, so we appreciate that.
So my main thing was really just numbing out. The biggest thing for me, I mean, I'm nothing other than an addict. I've got no medical degrees, I've got no medical knowledge. I live addiction because I'm an addict, and that's what I do 24/7. So being in recovery is a totally different perspective. I'm working really hard on my recovery at the moment. So I came to realize something really interesting during this last trip, because I just got back. You know, I come from an emotionally broken family in certain ways.
Okay, most of us do.
Right, and it was quite an interesting insight, because sometimes there's within the history, and then we have choices, and then we are, and we just be, and things come up, and we go, aha, this is the way that we are. But I came to realize my grandparents were emotionally broken because of their experience in the Holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
My father is emotionally broken, so are my mother. They're not very great at speaking. I never dealt with my emotions. The way they communicated was with food. That was the way that they dealt with things. I had a choice. I dealt with amphetamines from the time I was 7, which I never got from my family, but that was my choice. But I actually came to realize that talking and expressing emotion is something that I've needed to be taught. It's not something anyone told me how to do. I just assumed that it wasn't important. I didn't think my emotions were important. I thought if I hid them and put them away and I didn't need to deal with them, it was okay.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I do have degrees, and I do practice medicine, and I have a lot of letters after my name, and I'm an addict because I'm an addict, just like you. So it doesn't matter what type of addict we are. So you and I are sisters in addiction, man. We're exactly the same.
Yes,
and we're exactly the same as everybody out there. Again, our addiction has nothing to do with the food. It has to do with the way that we think. It has to do with the way that I view the world, what I'm accepting of, what I'm not accepting of. And remember, when I'm not accepting of something that's happening that I can't change, I'm fighting against the universe. And the universe is always going to win. And so when we don't learn new coping skills, for people who are addicts, we use. That's what our brain knows how to do. That's how we change the way that we're feeling. So we even talk about, but I'm having a good day. So if we're having a good day, we'd prefer to have a better day. If we're having a bad day, we'd prefer to have a good day. So we do anything that we can so that we don't have to pay attention to how we're feeling. Because if we pay attention to how we're feeling, perhaps we need to make a choice to change the way that we're feeling. And when we're in active addiction, we're just not ready to do that. Not until we get some willingness, right? Usually that happens, good morning. Usually that happens when we get that gift of desperation, as they say in the room. So usually when we're so desperate, when we wake up and we're so ashamed and we're so guilty and our lives have become ridiculously unmanageable, and the addiction takes over and we wake up in the morning, and as soon as our eyes open up is, what do I need to do to get me through the day so that I can have what I need or what my brain thinks I need? And how can I do it all day? And how can I get more? And how am I going to go to sleep without knowing that I'm prepared for the middle of the night? So if I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I don't have to binge on lettuce, right?
Right, and how do I stop feeling so shit?
Yeah.
How do I stop feeling so guilty and ashamed?
Right, and so how do we stop feeling so guilty and ashamed?
Well, it starts with, what am I feeling? I mean, that's also... So really the emotional side of it is also being able, it's learning the tools to be able to recognize what those emotions are.
Yeah, and first, you guys, we say everybody's here this morning, everybody who's tuned in, good morning. First thing is willingness. So Andrew and I talked for quite a while about how, recovery isn't for people who want it, because everybody wants to get better. Recovery isn't for people who need it, because every single addict in active addiction, or not in active addiction, needs to be in recovery, right? So there's a reason why there are a bazillion addicts out there and that we're not all in recovery. And so that recovery starts with the willingness to change, which usually starts with that aha moment where you say, I can't live like this anymore.
Mine was, I want to die.
Well, so mine was, I want to die too. Yeah, because mine was the last time I tried to kill myself. So I was in a hospital, I had just tried to commit suicide, and yeah, so that was mine as well.
That's a tip off.
Yeah, it is. Usually it is, but you know what, it wasn't the first time. And I didn't get it the first couple of times. So yeah, it should be a tip off. But for me, you know, when you're so deep in it, when you're so in the middle of your active addiction, it ain't ever my fault. So, or my problem. So how you said, you know, other people make us use, right? If you would just change the way that you talk to me, I wouldn't have to use. And if you would just change the way that you treat me at work, I wouldn't have to use. And you're my friend, and if you just wouldn't talk to me about blah, 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 then I wouldn't have to use, because it ain't never my fault. It's always your fault.
Yeah, and if you never did that when I was 17 years old, even though I'm 52 now, I'd be okay.
Yeah, and that's the truth as well. And so when we talk about that, we talk about living in our past and holding on to, you know, you guys, we talk about events that happened in our past, right? And we talk about our events are just events. So those things happened, right? Now when we talk about being an active addiction or being an addict, we talk about not dealing with our emotions. So something happened, and now we have these emotions or feelings that are attached to that action. The something happens never go away. You can't wish it away. Well, if this didn't happen, it happened. There's never a if this didn't happen. It happened.
But can't events change you?
Can events change the way that we see things? Yes. Can we go back and change the event that happened? No. Can we learn to change the feelings that are attached to that event so that we could be free from the resentment, from the fear, from the shame, yeah, we can. We can learn to change the way that we feel, but we can't change the event. So everybody that's holding on to what they think is an event, I was a sexually abused kid, so was I. You know, my parents got divorced, so did mine. You know, so-and-so died, my son died. You know, a lot of shit happens. Don't make my problems worse or better than your problems. Everybody's had stuff that happened in their life that were tragic events, right? And a lot of us have a lot of trauma attached to those tragic events. The thing is that a lot of us have a lot of feelings that are attached to those events. So if my parents got divorced, and I'm still feeling sad and unloved because 40 years ago my parents got divorced, my parents aren't going to get undivorced, and I'm not going to be 15 years old anymore, right? But I can deal with the feelings of abandonment that I have attached to that thing that happened, right? And so it's always about, which is what you started talking about, it's always about how we feel, right? It's never really about what's happening in the world. Are we gonna, somebody dies, are we sad? Of course we're sad, we're hurt, we're scared, right? We have all of those feelings. Yes, we do. Are those human emotions that we're all gonna have? Of course they are. Do we have to stay there forever? No, we don't, right? We could learn to, as you said, talk about your feelings, talk them through, get the help that we need, and go forward.
I never had anything terrible happen to me, and
Okay.
I'm as big a fucking junkie as anybody.
Fair enough. And so we talked about right before, good morning, Johnny.
Good.
We talked about before you came in too, just the way that our brains are wired. And so some people party through college or party through high school, and then they're done. You know, they wake up one day and they're saying, oh,
I'm
okay,
not in high school anymore?
No, you're not. I'm going to wake up today and go to work, and I'm not going to look to see if I left any Coke on the floor. That's not going to happen to them. And some people will always look to see the next morning if there's, a little bit of cocaine on the floor. It's the way that our brains are wired. Some of our brains are wired.
I'm so happy that you're actually discussing this, because two things just happened in the time that I was away. One is I was chatting to my father, best dad ever, shout out to you. He fell 2 years ago, and he's been holding onto this fear of falling. So he's been struggling, he's been in a wheelchair, he's been battling with a walker. We're having a conversation and he doesn't want to fall again. I said, Dad, it was 2 years ago. For him it was like it happened yesterday. So he hangs on to that feeling. All of a sudden he starts processing it, and it's a different shift, because what I sometimes feel is things that I remember and events that happen don't always necessarily have happened either in the timing that they did or the way that I thought it did, because talking to him and talking to my sister, there were certain resentments that happened when I was younger. I didn't even remember some of the events. And there's certain things that they saw attached to, and it was a very cathartic time for us to be able to sit down and actually be able to discuss it, which isn't something that we were able to do before. Whereas my sister had been walking around with these resentments for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it definitely becomes baggage that takes up space in our soul.
Absolutely.
What
Yeah.
becomes bad?
When resentments, hurts,
Holding on to those bad feelings of the past, the feelings that we have attached to certain events. It's actually something called confabulation, you guys, which is my favorite word. So to confabulate is to
Fabulous
make
word.
up memories. So, and
You used
we,
to make up memories?
yeah, they're made up, confabulation is our made up memories.
And how do you know you made him up?
Well, here's the thing. Does it matter?
No.
No. It doesn't matter because whether we made up the feelings or not, we need to get better.
And you can't change the events. It's
Right.
kind of- they
So
happen.
Without
whether
sounding like a smarty pants, I just read something relative. Didn't use the word confabulation, but our memories are renditions of our memories, and so
Correct.
it's understandable why you can confabulate.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is, so we could be holding on to, like you said, you and your sister looked at things differently, right? Or remembered the past differently. We could be, first of all, you guys, trauma's trauma. Our brain reacts a certain way to trauma. We tend to live those traumas. So when people who actually have traumatic things happening, see a therapist. I do. Everybody, you
I
know,
do.
if there's something that you're going through and you feel like you can't get well, seeing a therapist is an awesome, amazing thing to do, and it helps you to get well. A lot of people who say, and we've all been there, I don't want to see a therapist. I don't need to see a therapist. Well, yeah, you do want to see a therapist. I mean, you do need to see a therapist. No, maybe you don't want to because maybe you don't want to go back and get better because we're so used to sitting in our own shit that the way that we're sitting and acting and viewing the world might be really bad, but in some respects it's safe and it's less scary than waking up and saying, okay, if I change, if I get some help, what does my life look like then?
So it had to change from Google to Mozilla.
Okay. Well, so you're talking about changing your default,
Right.
And learning how to use something new.
Right.
Yeah, and so that's really a big deal. And so it's saying, okay, I have this problem, or I had this event, and this happened, and this is how I'm feeling about it, and I'm gonna get some help. And so let's say I get help, and I learn how to be well. How am I gonna live without that addiction? With that thing that I've been carrying around, that's been there when I'm sick and when I'm sad and when I'm tired and when I'm happy, and something that I've always known is my go-to. How am I what does my life look like without that go-to? And I always say that I'm going to read that thing, 5 words that are part of every addict's vernacular, and I forgot again because I'm very old. But I'm going to make sure that I have it printed out for Wednesday's meeting. And when we talk about that, we talk about how living in our addiction is horrifying, but less horrifying than the thought of living without our addiction.
It's what's known.
Yeah, it's what
in
exactly.
your
And we
It's what's known.
perfected it. I mean,
Why
the
is
thing.
living in your addiction horrifying?
Living in your
It's
addiction?
comfortable.
Well, is it? Excuse me. Thank you for. I love when he shows up here. Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that. And so I had a patient the other day. Oh no, it wasn't a patient. It was somebody in the room who said, but I was.
An oak, as we say in South Africa.
So listen, you guys. Somebody said, you said, oh no, I'm happy in my addiction. Really? Because I woke up every single morning scared shitless. Where am I going to get my fix? How am I going to get my fix? How am I going to get it through the day? Do I have enough money in the bank? Where do I have to go? Who do I have to call? What happens if I don't get it? Right? I'm a horrible person. I'm guilty. I wake up ashamed. I have the efforts. I do the same exact thing the next day. I live my life in fear. Is happy? And if you were happy...
Yeah, but my fix was at Carvel and it had sprinkles.
And why'd you change?
Huh?
Why did you change?
I'm 63 and I didn't fit outdoors.
Okay, you didn't fit outdoors, so you didn't fit into your life.
Right.
Were you happy that you didn't fit outdoors?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm
Okay.
generally happy.
Okay, listen, we don't change stuff just because we want to change stuff. We change our socks because they're dirty and we think that we should put on clean
We're
socks,
supposed
right?
to change ourselves?
Only on the weekends. Only before you come
Actually,
here.
mine's only on Mondays.
Right,
but-
and you're not even wearing socks. So, yeah, so normally when we change, there's a reason for it. If we're changing a behavior, it's usually because we feel that we're changing something for the better, right? Right? Otherwise, you'd still be fat and happy, and you wouldn't be hanging out here.
Or
Yes?
we think
Don't laugh. You're grounded.
Wow.
Or,
not necessarily we think it's for the better, or that we're going to be happier, but that we have to for our health.
no, we choose to, you guys, for our health. We don't have to do nothing, right? We can do what we're doing and die. We could do what we're doing and feel uncomfortable. We could do what we're doing and be sick. That's our choice, you guys. I practice endocrinology and internal medicine. You know how many of my patients know what they quote unquote have to do and don't do it anyway? And so they're actually, even though they're making believe they're not, they're making a conscious decision to stay sick. And I'm really mean. So I tell my patients that. Eat the rice and tell me that you're choosing to go blind. Say it. I choose to go blind, so I'll eat the rice.
Oh, I thought you said blonde.
No, blind. So you guys, those are still choices that we make. Do we have to get well? No. Do we choose to get well, as they say in the rooms, because we're sick and tired of being sick and tired? Yeah, it's a choice.
I think it's reflecting on what Johnny said. Trying to decide when you're in your addiction and you're eating the way you are, or whatever your brain is doing, it's easy to reflect back on that and say, yeah, I was happy. Because yeah, I was happy eating like cake and fried chicken and all these things.
How long were you happy for?
Seconds.
Yeah, but then I could make those seconds turn into an entire day in which I did
And-
nothing but eat. And then I was happy the whole day.
And then when you woke up the next morning, how happy were you?
Right, not happy at all.
Yeah.
But then immediately I'd make myself happier with
Right,
food.
so you're living your life, doing whatever you can to get rid of, to change fear and shame. And so we wake up in the morning and we're ashamed and we're afraid. And our life runs on fear and on shame. And we're doing what we think we could do or take from the outside to get rid of that guilt and that shame and that fear. And that's how we live our life. If you had a daughter, would you hope that that's the way that she would live her life? Would you hope that for her? That she got to wake up ashamed and guilty and fearful every single morning? And that's basically her whole life revolved around that? Or would you want her to get help? You'd want her to get help. Why? Because I've never heard anybody in the same sentence say, I'm so happy, I'm fearful and guilty and ashamed, and I'm so happy. Right?
No, it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys were scared. When we're in active addiction, we're petrified all the time. How am I going to deal with breathing without using? Right? And we used to talk about this a lot. So we make up chaotic situations, right? So that we can use.
What
And
do you
so
mean? What's an example?
we look at the world chaotically so that our addiction can speak to us and say, okay,
You need
this
to
is
explain
happening,
that.
this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. Oh, you know what? I got here this morning and Lucy didn't even offer me a cup of coffee. You know, she goes to coffee every single morning. She didn't even ask me if I wanted a cup of coffee. And Angeli, she's sitting there on the phone. She won't even take a look at me. And Haiti, I've been trying to talk for 15 minutes. She won't let me get a word in edgewise. Now, I'm pissed off, I'm discontent, I'm angry, and I have an excuse to use.
And
if I eat a cake, I'm gonna feel a whole lot better.
Well, my favorite was I would wake up and hit the ground running and be so busy that I didn't eat until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. All of a sudden at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm starving because I haven't eaten breakfast, my sugar's spiking. I am in that chaos mode of just being busy because I'm very good at being busy. And then it starts that, oh, I haven't eaten today. Let me grab this while I'm shopping at Publix and let me just do the quick drive-through. And then all of a sudden, 11 o'clock at night, I'm absolutely starving and I become the shark. And that shark is whatever I can find, I'm going to just stick in my mouth. And then I start shoveling in food and I turn around and I can't believe how much I've consumed.
And I love that you said that. I can't believe how much I've consumed. You know, we all do that, right?
Right.
At the end of the day, how did we
comas.
use as much as we did? I've had like comas.
I'm a binger.
alcohol.
You know, I'm a binger, so I can get full and I can start all again from scratch. I mean, it's like this gift. But, and it's also a curse because it kills us.
Yeah, it's a dead. Yeah, it makes us dead.
So there's the other side as well. In me getting into the food, or that argument with the food became, I have got this huge ego. I'm this massive ego who always wants to look good. So there's no photos of me during my fat period. So you'll either see me looking great or you won't see me at all. In photographs, I disappear. So I was always motivated by looking good. That's my motivation. That is what, and that actually even pushed the guilt and the fear and the anxiety even more, because when I couldn't fit into the clothes and I couldn't do the shopping, I shut people out. I stopped going places. I stopped going to friends' kids' weddings, and I stopped going anywhere. I became a prisoner of my addiction.
Which, by the way, is a place that every single addict will eventually get to. Every single one of us.
And I showed, and on the outside, because of my unrelenting standards or the way that I am, you would think I was the happiest, most perfect person, because everything else showed up perfectly, and inside I was dying. I was miserable.
So you guys,
what was inside? What defines being miserable inside?
Well, I never knew what it was, and it's an excellent question. Until I actually started stepping into the rooms, I never understood what it was, but it manifested in other ways. I'd be short-tempered with my kids. I would be showing all different characteristics of an addict without really being able to know what it was. I thought there was something wrong with me, or, you know, the whole world spun around me. So I was getting what I wanted when I wanted it right now, and if I didn't get it, became my excuse to pick up. You know, the kids are battling with whatever it is. This one was arguing with me. My husband didn't shut the door to the bathroom, or whatever the story is, became a reason to find a resentment, which became our whole world. So when I sat there judging everyone, was when I was in my miserable place.
yeah, you guys, so what you're talking about when you ask what was happening inside, it's always fear. Every one of our negative emotions are fear-based. So we talk about this every week. Fear means I'm afraid of losing what I have, or I'm afraid of not getting what I want. And so whether it's a relationship, whether it's something material, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a job, whether it's whatever it is, it's that I don't feel comfortable where I am. And when we try to control, and you talked about ego, so I want to explain a little bit about ego. Ego is what I think your opinion of me is. So if I look a certain way and act a certain way and get a certain amount of things done and make a certain amount of money and drive a certain car, and my kids go to certain colleges, you're going to think I'm an amazing human being. The reality of it is you're going to think whatever the F you want to think. That's not my business. And so the difference between running on ego and caring about what you think of me, as opposed to actually how I feel, how I am spiritually, and what I can give back to my community. That's being a human being, right? Human being is me recognizing my feelings, me growing emotionally and spiritually, and me being able to give back to my community. When I am stuck in fear, right, which is being stuck in sick, the only thing I think about is me. How what you said affects me. How what you did affects me. How my boss showed up affects me. How you went to the mall and you didn't invite me, and how does that affect me? As opposed to how I am as a person, looking at myself on the inside. Because whether you invite me to the mall or not shouldn't affect the way that I feel.
And also there's the other component. Over my lifetime, I've gained and lost over 600 pounds. So for me, there's the element of pain. It reached a stage where my addiction was so bad that getting out of bed was a battle. Walking through Publix without feeling breathless, or without my knees hurting, or without my back hurting, also made me into a really mean person. A person in pain I didn't show up as the person that I wanted to be, which was kind, compassionate, loving, giving, all those things that I aspired to be when I was younger. I didn't show up that way. I showed up as mean, nasty, as a person in pain with no patience, no sense of humor. It took me years to actually laugh. for years and years and years, I walked around empty on the inside. I'd been the mother, the wife, the sister, all these other things. I was so busy doing, I didn't know what I was anymore.
Right, because you have absolutely no sense of self.
And why do you have no sense of self?
You have no idea of who you can be, who it is that you want to be. Do I want to wake up in the morning and look at the world as this horrible, terrible place and be pissed off at everybody? Or do I want to wake up in the morning, hope for the best, look at what I'm grateful for, and be able to put my hand out to somebody else to see if I could help somebody else?
I'm self-conscious because I'm grinning about something and I want to explain.
I'm not codependent. I'm not codependent. So whether you explained or not wasn't going to affect me.
I learned the hard way, when I would get up and talk about getting up from bed, that it takes a different amount of propulsion to get off my bed. It's 300 pounds and almost 80 pounds lighter. And I got off my bed a couple of weeks ago and barreled into the wall because I didn't need that much
propulsion.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so again, remember.
I laughed really hard.
Mazel.
Yeah, so it's a wow. Yeah, literally. The thing is that the physical part of it, it's like saying at the end, that my liver function tests were so bad that I shouldn't have lived. So that stuff, the obesity, your bad liver, you're not being able to remember, that physical stuff is the end result of our addictive behavior. So if we want to get rid of the end result of our addictive behavior, we have to change our thinking. So remember, we say, I don't have a drinking problem, I have a thinking problem, right? And so the challenge is here. It's the way that I view the world. It's about the fights that I'm fighting that have nothing to do with me. And it's about me looking at all of you so that I could have some kind of self-worth, as opposed to me looking at me, understanding what my self-worth is, and being able to be of service to the community.
And there's also that element, that element of being a kind, caring, nurturing person and putting other people first at our own expense. Being busy for so many years, doing so many things. I'm that PTA mom, I'm that super mom that's got to be organized. But I nurtured everyone else except actually giving myself the gift of being able to give me that time to be able to nurture myself as well. And this program gives us that ability not only to do that, but how to, because I'd forgotten. I didn't know what that looked like. For 45 years, I never did it. So really this is what the goal of our program is really to give people the tools and techniques to be able to redo that.
Right, exactly. And so
to live life on life's terms.
Question. The thing is too, is that when you talk about, I put other people before me, which is a really nice way of saying I ran completely on ego all the time. So again, I'm going to do something for you at the expense of myself so that I look better to you, right? That's that poor me, right? So that I look great on the outside. Oh, Felice, did you see what she did? Because she gave away her shoes and now she has blisters on her feet. So, no. It's why? So that I look good? I can keep my shoes on my feet and help you out as well. So it's not about that stuff that you do when you're so involved with everything else. So you have to take zero look at yourself, what your needs are. Help yourself, get rid of your addiction, right? Help yourself and be of service to the community. Give me just 1 sec, Luce. I'm going to get right back to your question.
Yeah, my question.
Yeah.
It's something you said like 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
But basically, okay. I don't even know if it's a stupid question or not.
We don't have stupid questions, you guys.
Okay, you're talking about like these behaviors or whatever that people who are in active addiction or addiction do.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that like once you're considered in recovery,
Mm-hmm.
is it like I feel like sometimes you slip back into that thinking. Does that mean you're not in recovery? Does that mean it's a process and you're continually working
Okay.
to?
So, and we know that. So they say progress, not perfection, right? And so it's always going to be progress. Are we going to slip back? Are we human beings? Of course we are. Are we going to have a bad day? Of course we are. wake up and learn recovery and get all better, we got flowers coming out of our ass. It doesn't work like that. It's an everyday kind of thing that we're doing to better ourselves so that we could be happier, we can have less fear, and we could be of service to the community. So yes, are you going to go backward? Yes, you are. Does it mean you're not in recovery? No, it doesn't, as long as you're recognizing it and you don't fall back into old behaviors.
Can I just add something here? Because it took a while for me to learn this. I'm not that smart. I had to break it down to terms that I could understand. Recovery for me is like, you know that muscle that you develop when you go to gym, and the more you work it, the stronger you become and the more defined you become? Recovery for me is something that, I call it my recovery muscle. The more I work it, the more it's easier to maintain. At the beginning sucks. It's like those first 3 weeks in gym or whenever it is. Really hate
I'm
it.
almost 7 months in and it still sucks sometimes.
It still sucks. I still have days that sucks as well.
Correct.
So I just, can I share the reason why I asked that? So yesterday, you and I spoke on the phone, and I've known you for as long as I've been in recovery, and I lied to you for the first time yesterday, right?
Did I know you were lying to me, by the way?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
And nonetheless,
Did it upset me?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
No.
What was the lie?
It's not
It's
important,
not
is
significant.
it? Yeah.
No, I'll say the part that's important.
Which means it's none of your business.
Nanya.
So you and I were having a conversation about something, and you said to me, Ange, you sound resentful, your demeanor changed. Are you resentful? And I said no. And it wasn't an intentional lie, because I didn't know what I was feeling, but I knew I was feeling a lot of stuff.
Okay.
And so, point being, that I didn't tell you till later in the day. I texted you and said, hey, I've been thinking about this all day. And then I thought about, like, okay, I'm a person in recovery. People in recovery don't do those kind of things. And then I said, well, no, I just made a mistake. I'm a human. I made a mistake.
Right.
And I'm going to do the next right thing to correct it, which I did. And then it still makes me, because you know me pretty well, I'm a person who questions myself, so it makes me question. By doing that, does that negate everything I've done for the past 7?
No. So if we don't want to negate what you've done for the past 7 months, then you're going to let it go.
Okay.
Because remember, wanting to be a perfect person also has to do with our ego.
Right.
If I don't act perfectly, she's not going to like me anymore. Did I know you were lying? Yes. Did I care that you were lying?
No.
Did I have a challenge with what you were lying about? No. Did I text you and say, duh, I knew?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel any differently about it?
Yeah, most importantly.
Yeah, of course not. Of course not. So, it's learning that. And it's very, one of the reasons why this is such a hard lesson is because normally in life, you upset somebody, you do something, let's say you lie, and they get so upset and it changes their mood and it changes who gives a shit, man? That person's a human being. They lied for a reason. Your lie didn't hurt me, did it? Can I understand that you're a person who's doing their best to do their best and that sometimes you're scared? Yeah. Do I expect you to be 100% of the time? Of course not. If I can't learn to forgive you, then how do I forgive me? The reason why you're scared is because you don't know how to forgive you.
Right.
Once you learn to be self-forgiving, let whatever happened yesterday be done with, because there ain't an effing thing you could do about it, and move forward and do your best. That's life, man.
Can I ask you a question?
I
have to ask you this question. If this was the other way around, and Felice had done the same to you, how would you feel about her?
Nothing. I would forgive her because I love her.
So if you give her that compassion and that consideration, consider giving it to yourself as well.
Right, and so I always say that.
And I know that. We all know that.
I know,
Easier said than,
cognitively.
right.
Easier cognitively, we know this stuff.
Exactly.
Correct.
Easier
Right.
said than done.
Spiritually, to feel it.
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot more difficult.
Right.
Yeah, and that comes with time.
Yeah. And
Right?
the part that...
And it comes with not being so scared, and it comes with feeling better about yourself. So that even if I am pissed off, who cares? So I'm pissed off. The world doesn't fall down if I'm angry. That's my own shit, man.
See, so I'm not at a point where I fully understand that or believe that. So yesterday when this happened, I was like, uh-oh, I got Felice's Kindle. She's going to want that back. She's not going to be my friend anymore. I got this. I got to get this back. That was the mindset.
And that's part of your addiction.
Right.
right? And so that chaos. Okay, this event happened, and now she's gonna call me. She's not gonna call me again. I was supposed to talk to her later, and I don't know about the meeting in the morning because maybe I'm supposed to get her coffee, maybe I'm not supposed to because that. And then if she wants her Kindle back, but I've been studying with the Kindle. Instead of saying, I'm gonna tell Felice the truth. I know she's not gonna be pissed at me. Those are choices, right?
Yeah.
Right. So Susan, who is best mom ever, always says there's a story we tell ourselves, and then there's what really happens. Right? Right. So that's you living in the future, and you got no business being there.
And I just as an observer, you've been carrying this around for how long? Felice forgot about it the second after you discussed it.
Yeah, no, we talked about it yesterday.
No, but what I'm saying is you've been holding it in your heart and you've been carrying this, that it travels. I know when I go through that, it sits with me for a while. And with the other person, sometimes that when we look at it from that perspective, she got over it the minute she said, yes, I did, I'm sorry. It's over for her. I walk around and still sit with it. When I'm in... Before I actually started working within the program and starting to look at things a little bit differently, I would sit with guilt for so long because I've done it for so long.
And I totally understand what you're saying, but for me, although I did what I did, I still count it as a success in this situation because before I would have held on to it for a month and maybe not told her, and at least I told her by the end of the day, and I know that what she said is the truth. It's not like she's going to hate me now, even though I thought that.
So you still get to use the Kindle?
Yes, she can still use the Kindle. I'm going to buy myself another one so I don't have to talk to her about it. The thing is that, so what happens in life is that you lied to Lucy because you didn't want her to know something.
Right.
And she found out that you lied, and she got pissed at you, and she stayed pissed at you for a month. Okay? Now, that's about Lucy. It's not about you. Okay, so that's what we have to remember. If you are pissed off at me and I didn't do something on purpose to hurt your feelings, that's your problem. That ain't my problem. You guys, remember, that's all that we have to do is show up and do the best to do our best. That's all. If you don't like me because you're not a Panthers fan, and I don't want to name any other teams, you guys, because we won last night. Opening game, Panther season at home. Lost the first one, but won yesterday. So if you're, if you're upset because I'm wearing this Panther shirt, it's about you, baby. It ain't about me. If you don't like the way that I addressed you today on the Facebook, that's about you. It's not about me because I showed up and I did my best to do my best. So the more that I understand that my responsibility is only to show up and to do the best, to do my best, that allows me to forgive me. And when I understand forgiveness and I can forgive myself, it's a whole lot easier for me to look at you and say, hey, you know what? I said something and you got angry. Maybe you're having a bad day. Maybe I should reach my hand out to you and see if there's something that you need help with today, as opposed to being pissed off because you're pissed off.
So just to put that into context so that I can understand it clearly. Okay. So in context of the food and my addiction. So when I'm pissed off and angry, that's my excuse that I've always had to pick up and use. So when I'm feeling happy and content, then I don't have that reason to also pick up and use. Is that, am I understanding it properly?
Yeah, yeah. And so when you do use that as an excuse, you will, so we talk about creating the chaos. You will create the chaos instead of you saying, hey, I bet Ange is having a bad day. When you say, that bitch, who she thinks she is, and I know that she's a liar, and and she doesn't care about me anyway, I'm gonna go eat 17 cookies. It's gonna be her fault. She's the reason I'm using.
I'm powerful.
And give me back my Kindle.
Right now.
Sorry.
Thank you.
And where's my fucking Kindle?
Exactly.
I don't think you're allowed to say that over.
That's okay. We say the F word here, you guys.
No, I notice it gets blocked out. I was watching.
Really?
No, it doesn't.
No.
Yes, it does. Yes,
Not if
it
you
does.
I've
watch it on
heard you
YouTube.
say, yeah. Oh, does it on Facebook?
On Facebook?
Watch it on
Yes.
YouTube. You'll get the
I
unabridged
don't know.
version.
I always watch us.
Okay.
It's 9:45.
So I just wanted to check in.
Remember that commercial? No, I'm very old. Okay.
Well, mine would be, do you know where the cookies are?
Fair enough.
So, as we kind of heading towards the end of our hour, so I just wanted to check in because we've had a lot of questions. we have a workbook. And the big question is, how do I get a hold of the workbook? The workbook does not work on its own.
I wrote the workbook.
Right.
It doesn't work on its
works
own.
within a program. There's no quick fix. I went for the quick fix. I had the bariatric surgery. I thought I could solve all my problems and be happy the next day.
And you did get skinny.
I did get skinny.
Did you
and
get happy?
shop. No, but I got great clothes on sale.
But, no, and really.
No, I know.
And-
Regular size clothing.
Yeah.
Exactly, and a bigger range. It's actually quite amazing.
And,
but
and for 1 minute, truthfully, because I need for everybody to hear this, did you get skinny? Absolutely. Did the skinny make you happy?
it made me petrified. The day after surgery, I woke up with, well, what the fuck have I done?
Right?
No,
And,
it's
and
true.
you pretty much so had the same experience.
And 1
right?
week after I wasn't chewing, 1 week after not chewing food, I thought, how the hell am I going to live the rest of my life like this? So for me, it really became a huge wake-up call, because my go-to best friend when I was anxious, depressed, fearful, whatever it was, frustrated, was food, and it wasn't an option anymore. So all of a sudden, because I had bariatric surgery, I
She
couldn't.
couldn't.
So what happens if when you have
So what I
bariatric
did, so
surgery?
I'll tell you what I did. So I still tried to overeat, and I still tried to sabotage myself at the beginning of bariatric surgery, and I mean post-surgery, and I still tried to throw up, and I couldn't throw up.
Really?
I wasn't one of those people that could throw up, so I sat really uncomfortable. So the difference is, all of a sudden I'm living with real excruciating pain, total discomfort, living with the side effects of the surgery as well, and not being able to pick up, and I was pissed off and miserable and really, really sad. But the beauty is, I had fleas, because I'd already started work, I'd already got into the rooms a year before, but I didn't understand recovery until I was well into the process, until we actually started doing work together and actually going through what became the basis of the workbook.
Right. And so the surgery, us skinny, doesn't make us in recovery.
What you see here isn't what's on the inside.
Right.
You know,
And so
I'm fat on the inside. I'm always going to be a fat food addict on the inside, because that isn't something that I chose. That is something I am. I have a disease. It's called addiction.
and we are not for or against surgery, you guys. That's not our
No, that's
business.
not our-
That's all we're saying is, no matter what, if nothing changes here, nothing changes. Whether you have the surgery, you don't have the surgery, if you don't find some recovery, if you don't step into some kind of recovery, spiritually, you're never going to get well, and eventually you'll always use. And so those are the patients that I have that come back 3 years post their surgery, and they've gained 100 pounds.
So the surgery for
Absolutely.
I have a
me.
client that had the surgery, and you could see him growing.
Yeah.
I've known him for
Yeah.
15 years, and
Yeah.
he's growing.
Right, because he doesn't have recovery. He had surgery. So whether you have the surgery or not, again, is between you and your doctor and the universe. Whether or not you have recovery is going to be whether or not you get well.
Oh, yeah.
After my surgery, I felt relief.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was a relief and a release, and it had been something that I had been wanting for such a long time. And I was like, my life can change now. I mean, but I also knew that that physically my life was going to change, but I also knew that I needed like help mentally.
Yeah.
Um,
And I don't know if
In
you
what
remember, but
respect?
we talked about where you would say, is it going to be that I could never have a chocolate bar again? Is it going to be, so you weren't looking at recovery.
right.
You were looking about not eating. And so not eating doesn't have anything to do with the addiction part, right? Because our addiction is the end result, our obesity is the end result of what's happening here. And so if this doesn't change, if our heart and our heads don't change, then we will go back to our old habits, because it's what our brain knows. And we're addicts.
So that's a great question, because I see loads of questions. People reach out and we discuss
What
things
was the
online
question? What was the
about certain foods that you're allowed. Once you have surgery, you can eat whatever you want to eat. I mean, at the end of the day, no one's going to sit there and slap the food out of your hand when you're going to
Right.
put it into your
You
mouth.
have the
Okay.
choice, is
You
what you
have
mean.
the choice,
Right,
right? Not
whether
saying
you
you
throw
can.
up
Well,
or
that's what I'm going
not,
to say.
right.
So the bottom line becomes a choice that you make. So you got the choice to either really start shifting your thinking and make a long-lasting change, or you can shift your thinking for 6 months while you're not hungry and you've still got those enzymes missing and you can't do what you used to do. Or you can start picking up from the second you finish surgery, and you can start putting things into your mouth because we forget that we're actually addicts. You know, it's one thing that we really forget, because when we start looking like this, it's really easy to start doing those things that got us into the same place until we actually start looking at it and growing as human beings beyond the food.
You know, so funny. Statistically, they say 30% of everyone post-gastric bypass will become an alcoholic. And people look at that like, oh, well, of course, because you're an addict. It doesn't matter what you can pick up. So if your stomach is this small, you could still fit a lot of tequila in there.
Right, and if it's not that, you can do the pot. I mean, that doesn't
Right,
really
the
up at
pot.
all.
I mean, you could do the pot.
Yeah.
You could snort some oxycodone, man.
Right,
That
it doesn't take any
gain
space
any-
up.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So an addict's an addict's an addict. If we don't change our thinking, we're going to have a problem with our behavior. Yes.
Okay. So this goes along with that. Like here in treatment, I'm the only one that is here for food addiction. Everyone else is drug or alcohol. And so we go over to the cafeteria and we get a meal ticket. We have one entree, two sides, a dessert, and a drink. And every single day, people are complaining after they ate about, oh my gosh, I'm so full. And then like the end of treatment, oh my gosh, I've gained so much weight. And I've told them it's all about choices. You don't have to eat fried cheese sticks every day. You don't have to
Exactly.
get cheesecake every day.
Exactly.
So I feel like they're switching their addictions almost. Like they're coping with their lack of drug or alcohol by eating the food that, you know.
Jess, it's not like they're switching, they're switching. They are. That's a they are. Right? They're changing their brain chemistry some way. It's not like, okay, well, I'm going to get some recovery right now, so I'm going to make good choices all the way around. It's like, okay, I quote unquote can't pick up my drug of choice, so I'm going to do whatever it is that I can to change my brain chemistry. And you guys, how many people in the rooms do we see that are morbidly obese? Right? Right, Andrew, we talk about that too. Morbidly obese, because now, okay, they're not drinking, so, you know, they pee test clean, but they're 100 pounds overweight.
But then how do you not transfer addiction? So
You
it's like
change
get into
your
a-
thinking.
And you have a program that works.
You get some recovery.
Right, you got
That's how.
you work a program, because unless we, you know, everything in life, what we work for, we get something at the end. So if we spend time working on ourselves and growing as human beings, there's going to be some positive outcome at the end of it. It might not be the perfect one, but each day we start seeing a little bit of progress. And then we go, do you know what? Last time, not everyone relapses, but for me, I have. But I must tell you something, going through recovery and being in a program, my relapse didn't last as long. And the way I felt afterwards didn't feel as bad as the last times. So it
Mine
gives me
felt
the-
worse, actually. I'm just
No,
going to
mine-
say.
no, no,
Mine
mine-
felt worse. My relapse felt worse than when I first went into treatment. I relapsed after 7 years. I wanted to friggin' and so much shame.
So it's different for everybody. What I'm saying in terms of how I didn't go and get the bat and start beating myself up, I was disappointed. You know, everyone's different. So we deal with it differently, but it gives us tools to be able to deal with it as it shows up and as we go through it.
Correct.
So the 21st of October, we're starting our first workshop. Guys, please, I know there are a lot of you out there. There are thousands and thousands of you who listen to us every single week. We are organic grassroots business. We basically started from scratch. We do this as service. Being in recovery and working on your recovery is something you only keep by giving it back, you know, giving out. So everything takes time, because this is us, okay? And we're learning as we go in.
Right.
So the 21st of October, we're starting our first in the room workshop. It's a 7-week program. It's on Eventbrite. It is on Facebook. I will post a new update there. That comes with the workbook. We don't want to start selling the workbook as a single element at the moment, because it's not going to fix anything. It's not
Right.
a pill. It's not going to fix it without going through the feedback and the interaction. And this is what makes us healthy, is being able to talk about our secrets and where we are, and be able to check in and get feedback. We are also going to be starting the online version of that as an online classroom. We put things online. This is only open to people who are not in Southeast Florida. If you are in Southeast Florida, you get your ass into the room.
Down. Unless you can't.
No, unless you, there's some
Unless
challenge.
you have to watch your kid in the morning.
Right.
I mean, right.
Right, but predominantly you will get greater results by being here with us, because we get to hug you. But also it is more effective through the Zoom application. I know it's so much easier to watch drama and be watching what's happening via live streaming, because it takes away that personal element. Put your ass in our room through Zoom. Whether
Yeah,
you
you
talk
got-
or you don't.
Yeah, you got to be involved. You know what? You have to talk. Let's not do that. So let's
Right.
not enable anybody. No, you have to talk.
Right.
When we're talking about getting well, we say that you're only as sick as your secrets. Me keeping that secret keeps me sick. So no, you're going to get involved in your own life if you want to find some recovery, because that's what you had to do.
Right, no one gave it
That's
to
what
me.
you had to do, right?
No one gave
Right.
me, I got the gift of being brought into the room by my BFF, but the thing is, I have to still work my own program.
Right.
No-
And you have to do the work.
and I do it every day.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take forever. It takes me 5 seconds to do a gratitude list.
It takes you 500 years to
Exactly.
get recovery, to keep
Right.
evolving and evolving and evolving, so that we can we can become the best version of ourselves slowly but surely.
And is it hard? Yes, it's not fun. It really isn't. But can I tell you something? The benefits of having gone through this program, I would never change this for anything in the world. It's been the gift of life for me.
It is the gift of life, right? It's getting rid of those chains, that fear that keeps us imprisoned.
It shifted my relationship with my husband, with my kids, and most importantly with myself.
So that's the whole thing. Until you shift the relationship with yourself, you will never shift the relationship with others. Never. It has to start here.
So we have 2 meetings a week. They're free meetings. It is
I can't read that.
Sundays
Question.
today,
Question.
Sunday 9 a.m. to 10, Wednesdays at 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. We do that for the working people who really works.
I
till-
work
She
12
works till-
hours that day.
She
Then
comes
we have
in
a
at
meeting.
8:45
Yeah.
and she sits down at a meeting, sees thousands of patients, okay, and she still shows up.
Yes.
I know.
Question.
I
I
just wanted to take
exaggerate.
a question from
Sure.
her because we haven't yet
Sure.
today. So Danielle says, what are some ways to not let what
Danielle?
others do or say affect you?
Do
Get
the
some
program.
recovery. Work a program. And so those are the things that we're going to be working on, you guys, when we're working through our recovery program.
The biggest thing I've gained out of working my recovery program is not being codependent. That's huge for me because I spent my life being codependent. It became my excuse to pick up.
Well, everything, including your codependency.
Right.
Right. Codependency is the easiest one, because then I can blame your mood for my actions. Right?
All right.
Yeah, that's the best,
Right.
easiest one to have as an excuse to
I
use.
never understood codependence.
We could talk about it after, because we're going to close right now.
Yeah, and I think that's a great topic as well for
Yeah, it
Wednesday
is.
to bring up.
Yeah,
So
it
what
is.
I'd like to do is just do a quick check-in if anyone's got something that's really eating them and they want to
Eating them. What's eating you?
Right. If they just want to check in before we start closing out.
Because we didn't check in with you guys.
So I have a question.
Sure.
How do you deal with the emotion of having that addiction, but then also knowing that you have a hormonal disease, for instance, like PCOS?
I'm gonna answer this. We're gonna do a quick answer right now, and I'll talk with you after. I practice endocrinology. I'm a PA. I do endocrinology and internal medicine. I've seen a zillion PCOS patients.
What is that?
Polycystic ovary syndrome. The PCOS.
Okay, I don't know what that is.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We're talking about having a medical condition. Your medical condition is not your problem. Does it add insult to injury? Yes, it does. Is it the root of the problem? Absolutely not. Do I have PCOSers that are a size 5? Absolutely. So it's about working on your recovery. Yes, ma'am. Do you have PCOS?
Mhm.
Yes, you do. How much weight have you lost?
65 pounds.
65 pounds. She still has PCOS.
Right. Well, I know it's different for everybody.
Yes, it is.
You know, because there's different versions.
Okay, I've practiced for
so-
20 years. I know this inside and outside. Inside, you and I can have a great conversation about it after. Super important. Thank you so much for bringing that up, because I know I got a lot of women out there that have the same thing. I have a thyroid problem. I have PCOS. I have whatever. We can talk about that personally, because I can't practice medicine on Facebook.
Right.
So we'll talk about that, but that's not your problem. That just adds insult to your injury.
Okay, you just made a promise. Can we close out with the promises?
We're going to read the promises from the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because it's my fave. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others, right? We could be of use and help to our community and society. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations that used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that the universe does for us what we can't do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises?
We think.
I don't think so. They're being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly and sometimes slowly, but they will always materialize if we work for them. I am blessed and grateful to be in recovery. Thank you so much, you guys, for being here and for being on our Why Wait for Recovery Sunday morning meeting.
I am so blessed and grateful to be here, full stop, and also to be working on
Sure
my
am.
recovery. And I just wanted to shout out to Mom, best mom ever. Love you.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
Peace out, you guys.
Peace out, everybody.
Enjoy your recovery.
Have a wonderful week.